We are live. The Hangout on Air is live. Excellent. You know, I liked it so much better when there was an actual countdown, so you actually knew what moment it was that we were live. But we're live. Welcome. Good morning.
Morning.
Stretch those muscles. Get flexed. Get ready. Early on a Friday morning for those of us who are in California. It's already lunchtime for those on the East Coast. Now, Darren, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, you're on the East Coast, or Indiana is the East Coast, isn't it?
Yeah, Indiana's east.
See, it's important to know your geography, and it's a good thing I don't work for TSA. You guys heard what happened with TSA?
What?
The TSA agent didn't know that there was a District of Columbia, and they actually, it was, the funny thing about it was the wrong person to make that mistake with. The guy was a reporter. So, of course, he wrote up a whole article about what had happened and how they didn't want to let him through because the TSA agent had never heard of the District of Columbia.
Well, that's
there are some jobs where, you know, geography is kind of a required piece of knowledge, I would expect.
And not in the U.S. A college degree was not required when this guy was hired.
No.
That's funny, and yet a buyer for a major retailer has to have a college degree and probably would know what the District of Columbia was. So maybe they should hire out of like the Macy's buying department to work for the TSA. So we have somebody new joining us today. Hold on, got to get my mouse going. Jody, welcome. Do you have sound? Can you say hello? Don't forget to unmute.
Hello.
Good morning.
Jody.
So, before we get into, you know, the main event, we, you know, a couple things coming up next week on the QBO show, or the QB show, right? It was Radio Free QuickBooks, now it's the QB show. They've invited me to go on there and give a demonstration of QuickBooks. We're going to demonstrate actually QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions inventory and the assembly process and showing how the transactions actually impact the financial statements. So that should be fun because someone had asked the question how it was possible that they could post the sale of an inventory part and have it not affect cost of goods sold. So I'm going to, in the process, demonstrate a couple of ways that that might happen. So that should be fun. On the QB show, it's Tuesdays. I'll give the link by the end of the show today. Gina, what are we doing today at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern?
We are just hanging out. I am back from vacation, so it'll be nice to be, you get what you get.
I love that. I love you get what you get. And speaking of which, where is Tina? I haven't seen Tina in like a week.
Tina's been working. She had warned us that she'd be a little shy of the show for a while.
Okay.
She has some jobs that she wants to take care of. Hopefully we can get her back here and there.
Great. And then, so a couple of things coming up. Cloud Summits in San Diego in my backyard in a few weeks. Anybody going to that? That's put on by Cloud9, Robert Chandler. So we talk a lot about hosted solutions, QuickBooks, hosting a desktop edition in the cloud. I want to call it in the air. Forget the cloud. I want to call it the air. I'm tired of the word cloud. Let's just call it hosting it in the air.
We'll start a new trend.
Yep. At one point, I wanted to call the cloud like pancake. Pancakes just taste better than clouds.
Oh, but air, and how's air going to land?
Air's going to be a little light.
Airy fairy? That might not go well from our LA people.
Adobe may have a problem with us, though, because of Adobe Air if we start trying to do that. So.
Or Nike Air.
Yeah.
Right.
I just call it somebody else's computer.
There you go. So, or somebody else's server, even better, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've got Cloud Summit coming up. Where are we? We're in August. So I think it's in September. QuickBooks Connect in October. Who's going? Yvette, you're going, right?
Darren's going.
I'm going.
Darren,
I'm going. I am. I already got my all my reservations and everything, even though I'm not going to be far from there. And
beautiful.
Yeah, I'm looking so forward to it.
What you can do, Yvette, just to get the full experience, is like book a flight to New York and then fly back. You know, just so you can get on a plane.
I'm only like 40 minutes away from there.
What's the point?
Yeah.
So we've got QuickBooks Connect coming up. So a bunch of us are going to be there. Dennis, you going to come to QuickBooks Connect?
No, I won't be able to.
All right. And then, of course, the world-famous Sleater Conference in November. I hope everybody's coming to that. Tim signed up.
I signed up.
I can't believe
Sarah,
I'm
you
not
coming
going.
back this year?
Not this year. I'm going to have to go every other year, I think.
No, Darren, you guys are an exhibitor there, so you'll be there, right?
No, I'm not going to. I'm doing a keynote at Thompson's Users Conference in D.C., and then I think it's the District of Columbia. And
Oh, you know it.
that's and then I got to do one at CCH as well. So I think by the time I do Intuits and those other two, I think I'm done for the year.
Gotcha.
I wait to Napa for a few days too, and probably drink too much.
Will
My husband
Ruler
goes
be
to
represented at Sleater? Will Wade or somebody be there? Or?
I don't think we're going to be this year. It's just things have been a little bit too crazy.
Gotcha. So, and that's about it. What else is coming up? I guess that's it after the Sleater conference for the rest of the year, because then it's December and nobody's doing any work then, right?
No. We're just skating through December.
Right. Nothing
At that
to do with
point,
year
you guys
end.
are going to have to download my Excel tutorial on how to put together a holiday shopping budget.
On Smart Sheets.
If we haven't already blown it by that time, we'll put it up.
I should do it on Smart Sheets, right, Sarah?
That's right.
And then I'm going to do the I have to do the video on how to do your grocery shopping list on Smart Sheets. I got to tell you, I did it as kind of a gag, but it is so helpful when my wife wants me to go to the supermarket to get stuff that she can just go into the Smart Sheets app and check off what we need, and it shows up on my mobile app, and I have it organized by aisle number in the supermarket.
Oh
Now,
my God.
It's crazy, but it allows me to go aisle by aisle, get everything we need. I am in and out of there so much faster now.
You're not OCD, are you?
No.
I would go to the supermarket on the other side of town just to mess you up.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. Is then, yeah, if you have to have a separate one for each supermarket that you visit. But of course, I only go to the one. It's right down the block from the house.
No, my
Now-
husband has his list for one and another list for the other, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. So he does all
So
the
you
shopping.
said you're behind the times.
I am. I'm slacking. He's more OCD than me.
Maybe you could develop the app, Seth, where it picks the aisles for you in case it changes.
Oh.
Did you guys see? I put a video out yesterday actually on how to get the little trademark symbol next to your name and how you can get that into QuickBooks Online. It works in desktop too, of course. So you can have your name appear on forms and things with a little TM or R symbol.
Mhm.
It's a lot of fun on Too Legit to Audit. I just posted that yesterday, and we've got some great guest blog posts coming out on it.
Somebody new just popped in.
We have Laura. I think Laura's joining us for the first time. Laura, don't forget to unmute if you need to, but say hello if you want to. And we'll come back to Laura if she wants to say hi. So, anybody else got anything else before we get started?
No, school started yesterday. I'm in shock. I thought summer just started.
Right.
At schoolofbookkeeping.com, school is always in session.
Oh, boy, you're good.
So, yeah. So check out that post. It's fun. I actually learned it from a client while I was in a one-on-one session with him, how to get that little trademark symbol. So, and I thought it was cool that it actually shows up on forms and things. Oh, somebody's got the video replaying. Hire out of like the Mason's buying department to work for the TSA.
Usually you can see the little green.
I know. I'm looking to see whose audio is acting up.
Well, it's not Laura because she says she doesn't have a mic.
Okay, I think that did it. I've got my control room up, so I can see who to mute.
Ah.
Now this is, I'm always nervous when I bring up the control room because remember I figured out I can accidentally turn on somebody's camera, or I can do it on purpose.
Nice.
Really?
So
Boy,
if you really don't want to be
make
seen,
sure you're dressed.
the camera's unplugged.
That is power.
Yes, lots of power. Your lovely wife is in the background, Seth.
You see her, right? doing her yard work. All right, so I'm going to turn my control room off because that's not helping me figure out whose audio is feeding back. But if everybody can just mute yourselves.
It'll be a super interesting hangout if we're on mute.
A couple things coming up next week. Hold on, we got a new message in the chat. Tim's muted.
I'm muted.
All right, I think we're good again. All right, let's get started. I'm very excited this morning to see my wife in the background. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very excited this morning to have Darren Root with us. I met Darren in person for the first time last year at this Leader Conference and got to spend a lot of time just hanging out, talking shop, and it was a real pleasure meeting Darren in person. I'm excited. I understand that my copy of The Intentional Accountant is on its way.
You should have already received that by now. Did you not get that yet?
No, I didn't yet. All right, somebody's got the video playing.
How is that possible?
Maybe it's Seth.
You know what?
Seth,
It
are
was
you
me.
sure it's not you? You're the only one not you. Oh,
It's
that's
coming from the control tower.
I had, what's crazy though is I had the YouTube video up, but I never hit play, so I must have auto-played somehow. That's funny.
The culprit.
I need some tech help. So anyway, as I was saying, it was a real pleasure. And then Darren and I even got to party together. We went to the nightclub that was at Caesar's Palace. I was going to say Little Caesars.
We ended up at VIP Summit too, didn't we? The VIP thing. That was fun too.
Yes, that was great. So anyway, Darren, welcome. Thank you. I know everybody's excited to just hear from you, so I'm going to kind of, turn it all over to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. Tell us about The Intentional Accountant. Tell us about RootWorks. Tell us everything.
Wow. That sounds like a lot. So, I do a couple of different things, Seth. None of it very well. So I run an accounting practice still here in Bloomington. I'm in my office in Bloomington now, Indiana. I've had the firm for 30 years. We're a pretty traditional accounting firm, mostly bookkeeping, tax, payroll, kind of what everybody does. And then I started RootWorks a few years ago. RootWorks is a company that helps small accounting firms. We do a lot of different things for them. We build websites, we build brands, we build marketing collateral. We help them with coaching, teaching them how to think about running their business differently, how to be more intentional with their business, things like that. We have about 600 firms that are members of RootWorks now. One of the fun things we did this year is we opened a new learning center. So we used to go do all of our RootWorks events in hotels, and we opened a learning center in downtown Indianapolis, about an 8,000 square foot learning center with great AV. I put an 84-inch smartboard in there, some great projectors, screens, and we built a cafe in there, so plenty of things to put people in a better mood towards the end of the day. So we got a cool cafe, we got a cool learning center. So we're kind of bringing everybody to Indianapolis now. So that's working out pretty well. As you probably know, I spent about 6 years as the executive editor, CPA practice advisor, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but I retired from that in February of this year. So that's about everything that I've been doing. Launched The Intentional Accountant, which your copy should be there. I think I sent it over a week ago.
All right, I'll check. We'll double check on the address later too. But I picked up my mail yesterday and don't have it yet. But I have, as I was telling, we were talking about you the last couple of weeks here. And I have, while I've been in other people's offices, picked up your book and just kind of opened it up to a random page and just read bits and pieces of it, which is what intrigued me more about it, and which is why I think I need to read it. because the impression I got was it was really aimed at people, probably a lot of whom are just like those of us who are sitting here in this very panel, where we're running our businesses, we're doing everything ourselves, and we're not probably leveraging nearly enough other resources to help minimize the amount of time we have to spend, so that we're, ultimately, I get the impression that the book, on some levels at least, is about sort of working less, making more money, working smarter and not harder. I mean, tell us a little bit about the book and, what inspired you to write it and where it kind of came from.
I've always, I did the E-Myth accountant with Gerber, and I've been a big Gerber fan over the years, and when
Love that book, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. When I read the traditional E-Myth, it just sort of changed my there's the 2 copies we sold.
Look at all the tabs.
It
I have
totally,
it on the iPad.
it totally changed the way that I thought about running my company, and this is 20 years ago. This whole idea that I could not be a technician was totally foreign to me, that I didn't have to really build something, that I had to operate every single day and meet with clients every day and do all this stuff myself every day. So that was totally foreign to me. And so the E-Myth was a lot of fun. I got to know Gerber and got to put some thoughts out there. But a lot of that was around Gerber's formula on the E-Myth. And I really had a passion and a desire to take the formula that I had taken the E-Myth from and really create that and be much more thorough about it. And that's what the intentional accountant turned out to be. It was really a much more thorough attempt of how you go about a process of creating a business that's really fun and exciting to run, that's very creative, as opposed to your traditional technical business. So that's why I did the intentional accountant, was to really put more of that information out there. So you want to know more about what's in it, Seth? Or you want me to wait and let you read it?
Well, don't completely spoil it, but yeah, I mean, I think this is what a lot of small business owners struggle with. I know I do at times, and it's, I'll be very sort of honest and in my own sort of usual style, very transparent about things. I was just having a conversation with my wife the other night, saying to her, I know I'm doing too much. I know I need to put together more of a team to help me get work done, because as it stands now, if a call comes in and somebody needs something and they need it by next week, I'm either going to have to turn them away, or I'm going to have to really shuffle some things around to be able to take them on and not leave that money on the table, so to speak.
I think the biggest challenge, Seth, that I see firms making is, or the biggest mistake I think I see firms making, which turns out to be a challenge, is just understanding what in the heck they want out of their business. I mean, what is their vision? Less than 1 in 10 firms across the country actually have even thought about what their vision of their firm is. What is it that I even want from this thing? I mean, do I want a firm that, that people can call me every day and I can sit there and do their work? Or do I want a firm that, I sell a set of services that are not geared towards me, that I have a couple of people or a team of people that can actually implement those services? Those are 2 vastly different visions. But most firms have not taken the time to even think about which one of those do I really want. And so they're building something sort of without a clear understanding of, I mean, how do you even know when you get to where you want to be if you don't even know where you want to be? I guess that's kind of the gist of it.
And I think it's fair to say that oftentimes while you're on your way to where you want to be changes. Things kind of change as you go.
Absolutely.
Because as you go on, let's face it, new opportunities come up, new doors open, and all of a sudden, I mean, I can speak from my own experience directly and say that when I started out, all I really wanted to do at the beginning was build a simple bookkeeping business and charge like $40 an hour and just do bookkeeping and not really be bothered bringing on employees and growing. Until the day came when I realized, well, if that's all I ever do, I'm very limited in terms of what I can do and how much I can do, and quite frankly, how much I can make, right? And of course, the obvious realization came, early on that the kind of business model we have as service professionals is such that I have to keep showing up and reinvesting my time in order to make a dollar. How do I change that? How do I scale myself and my knowledge and what's in here? And that's where, for me, I started realizing that there was something very valuable for me in terms of being able to develop, digital learning products, right? Because to me, that was how I went to a marketing seminar years ago, put on by Robert Allen and Mark Victor Hansen and this guy Alex Mandosian, who you'll see a lot on Google Plus, actually. and the three of them put on this thing called Mega Marketing Magic. This was many years ago, and the whole thing that they were stressing, and this was in those days, long before the internet was what it is now. I'm not sure if Al Gore had quite invented the internet yet. I think we were still doing Craigslist in those days to a large extent. That was our internet. But
CompuServe.
Copies, that's right.
And what was it, Netscape?
Oh yeah, good old Netscape.
Oh, we're dating ourselves.
You've got mail.
What was the music thing that went out? The first
what?
The first music, not Napster. It was in that same era though.
Yeah.
But they had all the lawsuits slapped against them and went out of business.
I thought that was Napster.
Maybe it was Napster. Okay, that's how much of it I can't even remember because it's that name.
But see, now I lost my train of thought. Squirrel. But just realizing, going to this seminar, they were talking about, of course, developing passive streams of income and really kind of packaging digitally what's in here so that you could put it out there. And the phrase that always stood out in my mind back then was, how do you make money in your sleep, right? So that I can go to sleep at night and wake up the next morning with more money in my account than I had when I went to sleep the night before. How do you do that? And the bottom line, how do I build something that kind of generates revenue for me where I don't have to keep showing up, because eventually I'm going to get tired, right?
Right. But you had to figure out what you wanted to do ultimately.
Yes.
Doing so many different things. I mean, when I started almost 30 years ago, I thought I had big fancy offices, lots of staff. The more staff I had, the better. The more clients I had. I built offices, and then, 1999, I am so sick and miserable, that I almost just gave up, sold, walked away. So it's we have so much resources now. There was nothing then other than looking where I came from or the firms that I had worked for. So it's exciting. Even now, it's sad that 30 years later I'm just now getting a hang of it.
I think, Sarah, we live in one of the best times right now because technology is, we are so enabled to do whatever we want to do today. I spent a number of years teaching the 7 Habits for Stephen Covey. I must have always been a frustrated accountant, but I was always doing something else. And I mean, I learned so much from that guy. Just this whole idea of what the heck do you really want out of life in general, and then build a business that supports that life that you want. Same thing as you. I mean, you can have big offices, you can have lots of employees. It doesn't make you happier, but just knowing what in the heck it is that you want, that is the very first step, I think, for any firm or any small business owner to really understand, because how do you even know when you're heading down the right path if you don't have any idea where you want to go?
Right.
Well, the thing that strikes me also and really still stands out, and even though it's been years, is, on the heels of going to that Mega Marketing Magic seminar I went to, it made obviously a big impact on me. Because it was one weekend many years ago, and I can still practically recite everything that happened and everything that I heard in that weekend. It was mesmerizing. And after that, I had picked up another of Robert Allen's books called Multiple Streams of Internet Income. He had written Multiple Streams of Income, but at this point the Internet was still kind of brand new, and so he wrote a variation on it called Multiple Streams of Internet Income. And in the beginning, he talked about, being an entrepreneur and why do we start our own business. And he makes the point, and I have regurgitated this point many times in videos that I've done and other things, that you have to ask yourself, like you said, Darren, why do you want to go into business for yourself, and what do you want out of this? A lot of times I think the temptation is for people to just, without thinking about it, spit out, well, I want to make more money. And I think the point is that's not a reason to start a business. You can climb the corporate ladder and make more money, and that's the point Robert Allen makes. He says the reason most entrepreneurs really want to start a business or stick with it if they do is the freedom that they get, the freedom to work when you want, with whom you want, how much you want. But the problem that a lot of us get into is we get into that that sort of hamster wheel of running that business, and like Sarah just pointed out, we drive ourselves crazy, and next thing you know, there's anything but freedom in this because we're constantly reacting to the client's needs and the email that just came in or the phone call and I need this or my payroll's not working, and all these things that all of a sudden turn that whole script upside down on us and turn us into hamsters running on a wheel, which is exactly the opposite of what we set out to create for ourselves when we started our businesses. So I kind of got the impression from the excerpts that I've read that that's a little bit, or if not a lot, of what the intentional accountant is about. Am I right?
You are, but I mean, making money is a byproduct. Freedom is what we originally wanted, right? So we said we wanted freedom, we wanted flexibility, wanted to be creative, and yet we go out and we build a business that's designed around our skill set, which is the exact opposite of creating freedom. It's creating restraints, because people are going to, if we build it around ourselves, then everybody's going to want us, and so we end up with the exact opposite of why we went into this. So what the intentional accountant's really focused on is, if you want freedom, then you've got to create a series of products, and I'm trying to get firms to stop thinking about offering services and really more about offering products. And product can be a service, right? So how do you bundle the things that you sell? So you could sell, a digital download, Seth, or you could sell a payroll. They're both a product, payroll service. They're both a product. How do you package that? And then who implements that? If you start thinking about them like a product, and then who's going to implement them, then you're really just you're no different than selling widgets at that point in time. Does that make any sense at all?
150%. In fact, the whole basis on which I created schoolofbookkeeping.com and brought in, help to get me, to get it marketed properly, was that, years ago, or let's go back to when I started doing video. That was the whole point of me doing video, was because I had built a business around my own skill set, and early on, one of my own clients pointed out to me that I could never sell my business because I'm the asset, right? I'm what people are paying for when they come to my company. So I realized that what I could, two things occurred to me really that caused me to go specifically in the direction of making videos. One was that I needed a way to reproduce myself so that I could sort of be there when I'm not there, right? And two was a way to be able to say, okay, as time goes on, I'm going to keep increasing my rates, right? I'm going to get more experience, I'm going to get better, I'm going to grow my business, I'm going to grow my brand, so I'm going to be getting more and more people in the door. Of necessity, I'm going to be raising my rates, but I never wanted to get to a place where I was, overpriced so much that there would be people who couldn't afford what I had to offer. So one way of scaling that was to say, all right, well, if I put videos out there, I can always make videos available, and I can scale that and make it available at all different price ranges, right? So that's where schoolofbookkeeping.com really came in strong here, was to be able to say, hey, for $28 a month, you have access to everything that's in here, pretty much. Now if you want the more direct one-on-one help, sure, that's available. That's going to be at a much higher cost. But that was the idea behind it, was that I didn't want to be sitting here, doing bank reconciliations for a living for the rest of my life.
It's creating a product and then creating recurring revenue. I mean, that's in something that you don't have to do yourself. And a lot of us go into this business because we have a skill set, and so we build this business around our skill set, like you said, bank recs or whatever that might be. And we get tired of that at some point. We got to build it around somebody else's skill set. We got to think of ourselves more as the managers as opposed to the technicians.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's really fascinating to have that simple little shift in thinking, to go from being around my own skill set to the skill set of the people I can bring in. Now, here's the thing. Let's say I'm a practitioner, like many of us sitting here, and I wake up one day, or I've just read The Intentional Accountant, and I say, holy crap, I'm one of these people. Everything's about me, and how do I make that shift? How do I start saying, first of all, I think there's probably a certain amount of fear behind going out there and starting to hire people and build a team, that what if I don't have enough work to pay them? Yeah. Right? I mean, that's probably the biggest crippling fear that stops people from breaking that barrier. What do you say to that?
So I just spent an hour on the phone with two of our Academy members yesterday afternoon out in Seattle. And, they had just been to a RootWorks conference in Indianapolis, and they were feeling inspired that they wanted to change their business, right? But the problem is they one guy took the train all the way back home and had plenty of time to think about it, and he got home and he's like, holy crap, now what do I do? Because I've got all this work that's sitting on my desk, and everybody depends on me, and I've got this staff that's not fully trained, and I don't even know what my next step is. Mm-hmm. So, and he had 4 staff. I'm sorry?
Overwhelming.
It was overwhelming for him. So I said, I'll hop on the phone with you again. And we sat and we talked, and I said, I think the first step is taking an inventory of what it is that you currently have. Okay, so really taking a look at your client base and sort of rating that client base to a degree and saying, okay, I've got X number of clients. Let's say you have 100. Of those 100, do all 100 have to have you, or is there a level of those 100, say 40 or 50 of them, that is revenue that could be generated without you being involved? Okay, so whether it's a 1040 that doesn't require you to do it because it's simple enough somebody else can do it, or a bank reconciliation and a corporate tax return that's pretty straightforward and simple. Let's just start by getting an inventory of are our clients a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3 client. If you tell me that all my clients are a level 3 client and they all need me, then I've got a real problem, right? But my guess is that there's some level 1, some level 2s in there. The goal being to create just a little bit of space in your life. Let's get rid of, let's delegate a level 1 to a low-level staff person that can do some of those tasks to start creating some space in your life so that then you can get some more level 1 business to keep that person full so you have enough to you can build the next level 1. The last thing you want to do is go out and get level 3 clients. And I define level 3 as the ones that you have to do. The goal is to end up with level 1 or 2s.
Do we want any of those, though?
Level 3s?
No, I mean, we need to develop level 3 technicians or people, I would think, because if we're really focused on the business, I don't want to do any of the day-to-day. Not that I don't want to do it, but I just realize it limits my ability to really go out and grow the company.
So what happens, what I think happens is that then your staff starts becoming better at it. So a level 1 client isn't necessarily simple. A level 1 client by definition is one that your staff can handle.
You can delegate.
It can, and so for some person that level 1 may be a very low level client because their staff is not very good yet.
Right.
But for somebody else that has a very well trained staff, that client might be a fairly high level client, right?
Okay.
It's just somebody that you don't have to do.
Got it.
And the goal is to continue to raise the quality of your staff so that level 1 keeps going up so you can continue to leverage those people.
Okay.
Right? Maybe they can move into even a level 2, and then you create a whole new level 1 of less experience. So that's how you kind of grow that firm. In my firm, I never want a level 3 client because level 3 at some point means nobody else can do it but me, and I'm just not interested.
Well, and I had that, and Seth got to hear it as well with a nonprofit, and the time it took because they wanted me. It ate up a lot of time for doing business development, and they weren't willing to pay for the level of service, but yet they demanded it. Finally let them go, cut them loose, and I've added 4 new clients in like 3 weeks. So
I told you.
Yep. That's where I had, it's funny, Darren, because I had a client who I took on originally with the intention of putting a bookkeeper on them. But I like, at this stage at least, to be involved more directly at first because I like getting my head wrapped around their business model because eventually I want to be able to do the CFO level planning that I do for clients. And I feel like I'm better able to serve them by getting into the trenches at first at least. What happened was, though, that quite frankly the client got so sort of married to me and the fact that I now understand her business and that when the time came that I sent somebody to her, she sort of flipped out and said, "Oh no, he doesn't know my business. He doesn't know what he's doing." And I tried to sort of calm her down and say, "Look, just give it time. There's going to be a learning curve because you're used to me going in there and I already know everything. And I assure you, I'm going to work with the person." But it was like, no. So what I did do is I said, "Okay." I said, "Clearly, it's not going to work me sending somebody to you at this stage. But if you want me to continue doing it, I've got to raise the rate." And ultimately, she agreed to a much higher rate for the services because it was just that important to her to have me. So that, Tim, that's how I think you have to scale it at that point. Is if they're going to demand you, then quite frankly, you make them pay for it. And if they're not willing to pay for it, then they go away, and then you can get 4 new clients in their place.
See, I didn't do that. I felt that I needed to have an honest conversation with every client about this is my new model. This is the way I'm going to work in the future, and then decide whether they're the client for me. Mm-hmm. And I got excited about this 3 years ago, but I kept getting paralyzed because it's my, I couldn't come up with a clear enough system to get all my staff on the same page. And one of the things I got out of this, I don't remember which book, was that I instinctively developed systems for myself. I'm real, forms, checklists, efficiency. I mean, that's the way my brain is always, how can I make it faster, better, easier? I have some employees that have done that naturally. And those are the employees I review their work every quarter, maybe once a year. It's always perfect. I hear them on the phone and they're mini-me's, and then try to build a mini-me. And over the years I kept trying to build these mini-me's, but some people just will never be a mini-me, But and then I have this conflict with the employees that just, because every client's unique, every employee's unique, So I realized that I had too many systems in place. Mm-hmm. And if I don't come up with one standard system, first of all, we can't step in for one another. And I tell you what really kicked my butt into action was I got sick. Mm-hmm. And when I got sick, my panic was, can my business survive and me still have a paycheck? Because I have a crisis. I have a real crisis. Fortunately, part of all my reorganizing was I kept thinking I had to go real small. It's too overwhelming. I wanted to go real small. It was almost like close and start all over again. Mm-hmm. And I started dropping clients, left and right, and the ones that were just driving me crazy, whether they were just pitas or good paying clients, but they weren't stepping up and doing what I needed them to do. So I cut loose, and fortunately I had done that. And then I was really into reorganizing, just doing pure management work. When I got sick, I wouldn't have been able to survive if this had happened a year ago, say. So, and now I'm better. I'm coming back to work. I've got my systems. I'm moving everybody to flat billing, all new contracts, a client handbook. I'm just cranking up. And my biggest producer has a daughter who's seriously ill. That's this week. And and I'm almost at the point where we can all step in and take care of all our different clients, because we all tend to take care of our little groups of clients, and there's so much in our heads. And even last week a client called and we went into her office and I'm like, I don't know where to find this. So I tell you what, it's an eye-opener when you realize how, if you're going to delegate to that level, you still need to be able to, step in. Delegating's great with the really, bang up staff, but unless you're all on the same page, and you can still manage. See, I didn't have a tool where I could see what everybody was doing. And now that I have some more collaborative tools in place, now I can see what she's doing and see what she's doing and see what he's doing, and I can step back and make sure everybody's on the same page, and it also, it also helps with conflicts with clients, because I had to get everything out of emails, and I maybe didn't know that bookkeeper was having a personality problem with that, administrative assistant, and I'm clueless until it escalates and blows up in my face.
So Darren, I kind of lost my train of thought on this. So the level 1 client is one that you don't have to do anything for because your staff can handle it. Level 3 is one that requires me. What was level 2 again?
Well, actually, a level 2 I see as one that requires you. A level 3 is one that I outsource to another firm. So okay. An example would be, I've got an orthopedic group, and one of the owners, 1040, is so complicated it's not for us, but I'm doing $30,000 worth of bookkeeping and payroll and everything else for this company. So we actually outsource the 1040 to a firm that specializes in things like that. So it allows me to keep the stuff that we are good at. So we kind of go a level 1 as somebody that we can completely delegate. A level 2 needs to be reviewed, and a level 3 we outsource.
Got it. See, now one thought that I had, and I never really did implement this. I somewhat implemented it, but really more and more I've headed in the direction of training for a number of reasons. I think it's easier to scale, number 1, and number 2, I enjoy it much more. And especially with the video aspect, that's where I can really scale it. But I do have, I'm about to add a 3rd instructor onto my private one-on-one training site. And so ultimately, the idea that I've had is to, just add on more instructors and pay for the additional licenses that I need to, have them use the software, the Adobe Connect software that we use. And ultimately, I'm the, because what happens is this, people now, and this is how I envisioned it always working this way, and this is exactly how it's working. My time gets filled up, right? People sign up for a session. I'm the guy they see in the videos. I knew well in advance this was going to be an issue because they want me, right? Because I'm the guy they saw in the video demonstrating this. So when I get on the phone with the prospect now, they'll ask me, okay, well, do I get you? And I'll say, it depends on how much of a rush you're in. If you want me, you may have to wait. But if you're in a rush, Sarah's saying my camera's off, but on my view, it's looking fine. Is anybody else not seeing me?
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not.
All right, let me fix that.
It's frozen.
It's because it's so cold here in Southern California. How's that? Is that better?
No.
No.
You're gone.
Your image is at the bottom now, but...
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Seth.
Okay, I'm back. That's weird because on my end, the camera's been on the whole time. Strange. Yeah. So what I did was I did this knowing full well what was going to happen, but now what I do is I assure the clients and I reverse the risk. I say, look, if you're in a rush and I can't get you on my calendar in the next 2 weeks now. In fact, I'm at the point now where I'm booked a good 3 weeks out most of the time. And a lot of people can't wait that long. They're calling me because they need to solve a problem quickly. So I say, look, go sign up with one of the other instructors. I reverse the risk by saying, if you're not completely satisfied, I'll refund your money for the session. I've not yet once had somebody ask me for the refund. In fact, when they've gone with one of the other instructors, like Darren, you were talking about, I've brought in instructors that I feel are so good, and in this case, it's a very particular combination of skill sets. I need somebody who knows their stuff in QuickBooks, but I also need somebody who understands the technology and isn't afraid of it, right? Because they have to be able to run the conferencing software while they're providing the session, and that's not always easy to do both at once. Usually now, in fact, I think maybe with one exception, everybody who's ever gone to these other instructors has come back saying, I want them now, right? Which is exactly what I want. I want people to want the other guys, and I'm about to add on a 3rd instructor because this way, look, you talk about focusing on what you're good at as a firm, but you do the same thing as an individual. What am I really good at? I'm good at getting on the phone with people. When I was originally asked by somebody, what do you want people to do after they've seen one of your videos, my answer eventually was, I want them to call me because I like getting on the phone with people, and I'm good at that. I'm good at getting on the phone with people and talking with them. They hear the enthusiasm in my voice. They know they know I'm not just a salesperson. They know I really do love what I do, and I love doing it, and I do it well. So my ultimate goal is to be the guy that gets on the phone and sells the session, so to speak. It's not really selling. It's more just at that point explaining to them, here's how it works, and here's how you sign up, and then just assuring them that they're going to get what they need, that they're going to get the answer to their question. Ultimately, that's what I'm in the business of doing, is answering people's questions about how to do certain things. And so this is what I've recognized for my own case is where I need to go. And then building the consulting side of the practice, which I'm shying away from. I broke off with 2 big consulting clients this year because the training side is growing. It's exactly what I wanted. And frankly, the consulting clients were eating up too much of my time. So in both cases, I transitioned them to somebody else. I said, it's time you found somebody else. I really can't dedicate myself to you at the level that you need. And based on that, I can either send somebody to you, but I was very honest with them. I said, to be honest, I would prefer not to even do that. I would prefer you found somebody else. I'll be more than happy to work with you on the transition and provide whatever training and resources they need. But if I do get into the consulting again, which ironically, I feel like it's like Scarface or no, The Godfather. Just when I try to get out, they pull me back in. So So, because this year I've gotten all these referrals from these local CPAs I've known for years. So it's like they're forcing me back into the consulting world. So my thought, and Darren, I'm curious what you think about this. My thought is, look, what's my strength? I'm a trainer. I teach well. So bring on the bookkeepers and train them, provide internal training and say, here's how you do this. Or they're at a client's using the same remote software I use in the one-on-one trainings. I tell my bookkeepers, if you get stuck, you call me. Don't bother the client. I'll remote in with you and we'll get the problem solved. So it's seamless. The client doesn't see a thing other than a good set of financials that somebody can review with them and explain to them what it's telling them about their business.
So I've got, and you lost your camera again, Seth. So.
No, he's back.
Is he? There he comes. So
maybe not.
I think there's 3 questions that I go to this coaching group in Toronto, and there's these 3 questions that our coach always has us thinking about. The first one is understanding what your unique skill set is. What is it that makes you really unique? Okay, and it sounds like you have a pretty good idea of what your really unique skill set is, Seth. The next question is what activities should you be doing to have the biggest and best possible impact on your personal and professional lives? Okay, so an example of that is this busy season. I mean, I'm good at doing tax returns. We do 1,000 of them in Root & Associates, but I'm not uniquely qualified to do tax returns. I'm just good at it. Okay, so would it have been more important for me to write the intentional accountant this busy season, or build our learning center? Or we developed a new binder as well for notes and things, or for vision. Would it have been better to develop those, or for me to do 300 tax returns? Okay, so those were just choices as to what I was going to spend my time doing. And so when I look at next quarter, what am I going to spend my time doing that has the biggest and best possible impact? So that's question number 2. And then the last one is, what can you be doing that will allow your company to grow 10 times? Okay, so it doesn't mean that you want to grow 10 times, but what activities should you be doing for them to grow 10 times? So when I was just listening to you, I heard you say, you know, I love sort of teaching and identifying problems. To me, that means leveraging other people to do that, because there's going to be a glass ceiling for you if you're doing it. So you got to figure out how to leverage other people, which also allows you to grow 10 times. Does that make sense?
100%, and it's funny because that's where ultimately I've shared with people when I brought Eric in to help me with the marketing for schoolofbookkeeping.com. One of the first things I said to him was, I said, Eric, look, here's my long-range goal. I want to be spending, because I am clear on exactly where my time is best spent. I want to be spending substantially all of my time here in this office, or maybe an office somewhere else eventually, but my time needs to be spent producing content, because that's what I'm good at, and that's the stuff that sells. That's the stuff that gets us clients in the door. Then I need to have the other people to take on that work as it comes in. So, and at the same time, I've always said, I still need to be doing some of the work myself so that I stay fresh, so that I keep on the top of my game. I feel like I always have to be doing some of the actual accounting work, because otherwise, what am I going to teach if I'm not, in tune with what's new that's coming in? What are the new applications that are out there that I can learn and then teach others how to use? So I always have to keep on the top of my game by actually doing some. But that should be the minimal amount of my time spent. But the bulk of my time should be spent, in my particular case, producing content, because that's what I do really well.
But having a really clear understanding of what those activities are, and then knowing how to leverage them, that's the key. And then being able to, so what happens to a lot of people is they sort of understand what they ought to be doing. They ought to be strategizing for their firm. They ought to be building systems and processes. They ought to be advancing some technologies and training. But they're so mired in just shit, stuff,
Right.
that they can't spend any time doing the activities that have the biggest and best possible impact. And there's my coach defines stuff as activities that are devoid of energy.
Oh.
Okay, so think about that. And a stuff is when you paying my own personal bills, that is stuff that I have no energy for doing that. And those are the kind of things that I should be delegating. Anything that is devoid of energy, I should figure out how to delegate that. Things that I do that provide me this energy, like doing stuff like this today, or going and teaching a conference or something like that provides energy, that's the kind of stuff I should be spending my time doing. Does that make any sense?
Yes, absolutely.
No, this is where I love to be, is doing stuff like this. Exactly. You know, I love being in a position where, I mean, I love, one of the reasons I love making videos is that I love the idea that I'm creating something that's going to help somebody, and that feeds me energy. When I finish recording a video, I feel about as good as when I've just finished doing an hour talk in front of a live audience. I get charged up by that, so I know exactly what you mean by that, and that's, I think, what probably needs to be made more clear to more of us more often. I love the way you put that. That if it gives you energy, if it makes you feel excited, then that's the stuff you want to be spending doing. I mean, there's all kinds of books that we can read that speak to this, that the more time I spend doing things that produce energy for me, that get me excited, the more I'm going to attract in the things that I want for myself because of that energy, because that energy has the power of attraction, and I'm going to be so excited about what I'm doing that it can't help but rub off on others, especially the more I talk with them about it. It's not supernatural. It's not even metaphysical. It's just real. It's just, if I'm excited about something, that's going to rub off on you, and then people are attracted to that. They want to be a part of that.
Yeah, so it's those activities that provide you that energy, but that also have the biggest and best possible impact on your personal and professional lives. So, I can have a lot of energy for serving nonprofits and not charging them. Well, that might give me a lot of personal satisfaction, but it's not going to have a 10 times impact on my company. So understanding those pieces and then tying that into your vision, that's the key. If your vision is to serve nonprofits and not make, and not have financial resources, that's a perfectly fine vision, but just understand that's what it is.
Right.
But marrying the vision to those activities and then doing those activities that provide 10 times sort of capabilities in your company, that's where the magic happens.
Right.
We like magic.
Magic's good.
I mean,
Magic
appropriate
is
magic, not like airy, fairy magic. So I knew I'd interject air in there again.
So, Darren, one of the things I did pick up in reading The Intentional Accountant was there was a paragraph where, if I remember correctly, you were talking about how because you had kids, you had more personal responsibilities, and I wanted to go back to that because one of the other things, it reminded me of another thing that I had read from Robert Allen. And hold on, let me turn my camera off and on again. I don't know why this is happening today. I probably need a reboot. But I remember at the beginning of that same book I referenced earlier that Robert Allen had written, Multiple Streams of Internet Income. He talks about parenting, actually, and he talks about how really, really interesting. This had such an impact on me when I read it. And I'm not a parent, but I still somehow felt like I could relate to it. I could understand where he was coming from. He made this comment and gave the example. He says, good parents create good memories. Bad parents create bad memories. And I think you can even broaden the scope of that and talk in general about how, good people create good memories for those around them, those that they come into contact with. Bad people create bad memories for those around them. So a good barometer for how we act in our professional and personal lives, I think, is to think in terms of what kind of memory am I creating right now for the people that I'm with? Is it good or is it bad? And then, but going back to what you wrote in The Intentional Accountant, Darren, I was thinking about that, and I think you were talking about how you had more responsibilities relative to your kids, and it became really important to be able to spend more time there. And I think we talked earlier about the reason we do this stuff is for the freedom. So the question becomes, what do I really want out of this? I think it's fair to say that most of us want the freedom to be able to have more time to spend with our families and loved ones. We want to know that the money's coming in sufficient to pay the bills, so we don't have to worry about that while we go spend time doing the things we really love to do and being with the people we really love to be with, which is our family. And so talk about that for a minute.
Well, I think I have 3 children, and my wife and I we've been married for 31 years next week, so we've been around. I mean, she was like 19 when we got married, though, so it's well, she really was 19 when we got married. I just happened to be 40.
So she's 25
now. No, we were high school sweethearts, and so I was probably 22. She was 19. We had 3 kids, and we're empty nesters now. And man, that is as good as it gets, I think. We've had kids for all of our our adult lives. And what's interesting is being from a small town in southern Indiana, it's all about basketball, and it's all about golf, and it's all about football, and you get your kids involved in these activities, and then you actually lose your freedom. I don't know if you guys have probably experienced that, but somebody else becomes in charge of your schedule. Because they want to practice every night, there's ball games every weekend, or they're going to have a tournament, in 5 cities away, and all of a sudden you lose your freedom, and that's not fun. So figuring out the balance of all that was really challenging for us. We didn't realize how challenging it was until we actually got our freedom back after the kids got out of school.
Wait, is that a level 1 or a level 3? Can you delegate the kids' activities?
That was like a level 5. But it was fun. We let our kids get into too many things. But had my work so consumed me at that point, and I hadn't been able to go do, one year we did 85 basketball games in like 93 days.
Oh my!
I had a kid playing college basketball. My daughter was cheerleading. My youngest, and we always wanted to be at all those events, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're working day and night, you can't do all that stuff. So again, it goes back to this is where Covey really helped me in the 7 Habits, understanding what my personal vision was, which was to be around and go to these kids' activities. So I had to not build a company that totally depended upon me, because I still needed the financial resources. But yeah, we did all that. I would do that differently. I wouldn't let the kids get involved in as many activities as they did. If I had to do over again, there's so much peer pressure around that, though, in probably every town. The last day my oldest son played college basketball, it was just over. It wasn't like he went to the NBA. It wasn't like he got his college paid for. It was just an event that ended. And then you look back and you think, geez, I spent so much money, so much time. And it was fun, but I think you just did it. It's kind of like running a company. You just did it without any real thought as to, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was very rewarding, too. I mean, getting to see your kids achieve and do all those things.
It's fun.
I could think of worse things your kids could be into.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. My daughter's actually starting with me. She comes back to Root & Associates in 2 weeks. She's with Ernst & Young now in Chicago, so I get her back in a couple weeks.
Great.
So that'll be fun.
Great. Well, it's just about 9 o'clock. I'm not seeing. Let me check the peanut gallery here and see if we have any questions for you from the people who are watching online. I'll refresh my page over here. Anybody here on the panel want to ask Darren anything or say anything? Thank him for his books.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you, because I don't think I could have actually done it without reading really practical, real life experiences, and I could finally apply it.
Well, thank you. That's very, very kind of you. I like nothing better than talking and working with accounting people. It's the nicest group of people I've ever run across.
Well, and so Darren, what books do we have now in your portfolio? We've got the Intentional Accountant, we've got the eMyth Accountant,
and
right?
Utility for Accountants. A really good friend of mine, his name is Jay Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Jay has a blog. Last I knew, it was the most visited blog in the world. It's called Convince and Convert. He wrote a New York Times bestseller called Utility, which is Y-O-Utility. And Jay is an internet social media genius, really. He does social media strategies for IBM, Walmart, Nike, people like that. He lives just down the street from me here in Bloomington. Speaks all over the world, but Jay is really a thought leader in the social media space. How to create, his book's called Utility: How to Create Help, Not Hype. So interesting. So anyway, he and I did one together geared towards the accounting profession, and it's just an ebook.
Ooh, something
Great.
new.
All right. So we got to check those out. They're all available, I assume, on Amazon, Kindle, Nook. So check those out. I'll check the mail again for my copy of The Intentional Accountant.
Yeah, you should have had that. We mailed that out over a week ago.
Sometimes it takes a while, though, to get across the country, I've noticed. It can take, a good few days. So I'll check today. I'll let you know, and then I'll just double-check the address with you offline.
Sounds good.
Laura actually in the chat writes, I think you have talked about some of the challenges that I have faced with my practice. Good, glad that this helped. And so, Darren, where do we find you on the web, especially if people want to join, Rootworks?
Rootworks.com is the place to really find us. And then we have an awful lot of social media connections out there. But what we're really spending most of our time doing right now, Seth, in Rootworks is helping people really get a lot of clarity around what it is that they want to be when they grow up, and then how to go about doing that. It's not so much about the technology, although we do a lot of technology. It's not so much about our web services, although we do those things. And we create some supporting services to help firms, but it's really more around strategy. How do I get what it is that I really want, and how do I know what it is that I really want, and how do I get there?
Gotcha. Darren, thanks so much for joining us today. Real treat, real pleasure to have you, and hopefully we get to do it again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
A lovely weekend.
Sure.
Bye.